sir. Okay, can I have John Fischer, Heiko, Gerstung, Mike Calabro, Todd Inskeep, and Victor Yodaiken come and sit in these chairs, please? Yes, in the correct sequence, Heiko. As though we're timing systems. So what we're going to do now is go through what's called setting the stage for innovation, speed vendor presentations, and they're going to go in the sequence that they're sitting here. Hopefully they can figure that out. They should be able to. So I'd like to introduce John Fischer, CTO of Spectracom. John, it's your game.
Thank you. And that's my clock there. Okay, great. All right. Thank you. Good morning. Let's see, I'll get this started. I'm here to talk to you about monitoring time-sensitive networks. And we're here, I'm Orolia Enterprise. Some of you may know us more as Spectracom. We've been making time servers for a long time, but now we're part of Orolia, a larger global group. We've been doing time-sensitive networks for many industries, aerospace and defense, public safety, of where they have to have legally traceable time. They're recording everything and having to have logs that are going to be used as evidence in court. And so that's something we've been doing for a long time. 95% of all 911 call centers use our equipment. So we think that applies a lot to what you folks are doing, your data centers. So the specific requirements that you have in financial networks, which you actually know better than I do, but my understanding is that it's all about reporting, about being able to prove that you are in sync, and that you, as you've heard this morning, all the different parameters that you have to do. And the fact that your networks scale to large, small, et cetera, you have to be able to handle that. So what does a monitoring system look like for these kind of networks to comply with MIFID, FINRA, et cetera, these regulations you have? Well, we're going to UTC, as you heard earlier about UTC time, which comes from the satellites that come from GNSS satellites, or the more generic term for GPS and other satellite systems. They also come from STL. If you were here at this event last year, I told you about STL. This is a new satellite time and location signal that is a lot stronger than GPS and can provide UTC traceability as well. I'm not here to talk about this today, but if you have questions about that, please come see me after on that. So anyways, you're getting from these satellites, you're getting precision time coming down, and it goes to these grandmaster clocks that are then, you distribute it on your network through NTP, PTP, through switches and routers. You heard about some great routers and switches that do that. It goes into your applications. And so you need to monitor that synchronization of every element in your network. And so we do that. You collect that. You collect that information into a database, and then you either can view it in real time to know where you are, real-time integrity checks, or very important, create reports for logs that need to be kept in either for compliance or your own internal auditing. So, so the reason why I'm here today, am I not doing it? There we go, is to tell you about a new product we have. It's called Prisma Compliance. Fast, reliable, accurate. It works fine, lasts a long time. So, but what the real advantage it has are real-time reporting. We're using this QuasarDB database engine that is collecting all the monitoring points, storing it in a very scalable database, and allows you to generate reports in seconds rather than hours. You can set thresholds for compliance to see if you're exceeding limits or not. So a very powerful tool that you have there. You get true UTC traceability. As I mentioned, that you have to monitor the synchronization of every element from your client applications, the the networking elements that are in between you and the grandmasters, and even the satellite systems themselves. As you heard, there's been glitches in GPS and other things that'll happen there. You need to at least be logging and monitoring any of those glitches. As I mentioned, these logs are going to be used as evidence. You're going to have to defend yourself, and these could be hefty fines. And so you really have to have logs that are secure and tamper-proof. This is something we have a lot of experience with. And lastly, you need to retrieve these logs. You have to store them for a long period. I believe it's 5 years, maybe longer. You have to find them. You have to make sure they're there. If you're cloud storage, whatever you're doing, and so part of this whole database engine we have gives you that multi-replication. So that is the summary of it. Quick speed thing. There are data sheets. Thank you. There are data sheets back there about our new product. If please come and see me or my colleague David Whitney. David, if you would just raise your hand, either of us can maybe answer questions for you. So thank you.
Heiko Gerstung from Meinberg.
Okay, hello everyone. I will walk you through a little bit of background information about Meinberg as a company, because typically at least a fair share of people didn't hear of us before, so I'm trying to change that today. The company itself has been founded in 1979, so we are going to have our 40th anniversary next year. And one of our plans for basically celebrating that is to start a photo competition, asking all our customers to send pictures of the iconic Meinberg GPS antenna, which has been installed roughly 70 to 80,000 times all over the planet in the last couple of years, sometimes in very scenic situations, very scenic places, and we would like everyone to basically send us pictures of their Meinberg antenna in front of the Eiffel Tower or the Tower Bridge or whatever. The company is headquartered in northern Germany, but Pyrmont, nobody ever heard about that, probably except those people who already visited us. A bat, by the way, is not something that is something bad in terms of English. It just means it's an officially licensed spa town. So whenever you want to combine time synchronization and wellness, you're warmly invited to visit us. Meinberg is having their own in-house production. So we basically built all our PCBs, all our systems in-house. That includes chassis production, so all the mechanics, everything is done in our own central facilities in Germany in order to basically be able to have full control over the whole process, to make sure that we get the quality that our customers expect us to deliver, and of course, in order to be highly flexible when it comes to requirements from customers. So we can build custom individual solutions with a minimum order quantity of 1. The company has a strong focus on synchronization. Synchronization is all we do, basically. We don't do anything else. 80% of our turnover is generated by our LAN time network appliances, which is basically our platform for NTP and PTP time servers. We also have bus-level products like PCI Express cards, USB clocks, and so on, but typically most of our customers are using our network clocks for synchronizing their systems with NTP or PTP. We consider ourselves a global technology leader for NTP and PTP, and that is because we are operating in a lot of different environments. We have seen it all in terms of time synchronization requirements and frequency synchronization requirements. And I will walk you through a few examples. The general idea is that the synchronization core is the same for every application, whether it is a power substation, a financial data center, an air traffic control center, or whatever. We are talking about time, frequency, and phase. And we basically customize our products for the specific applications by adding different input and output interfaces to it. The performance we deliver has to fulfill the highest demand because we have, as I said, one core. So our systems are capable of synchronizing from 8 PTP slaves, up to 20,480 slaves in one 3U chassis. And that is the most powerful, basically most scalable solution on the market. At the same time, we support all kinds of different, for example, incarnations of or versions of PTP, all different parameters, options, modes you can think of, all different profiles, and that's also something that is unmatched in the industry. So a few examples. So many of the top-tier international stock exchanges are using our products. Specifically, exchanges have been very busy in implementing MiFID II compliance in the last, let's say, year or last couple of years. And a lot of them are using Meinberg equipment either to synchronize their systems or actually to synchronize and monitor the systems. We also supply a lot of equipment to power grid control systems, a lot of international customers operating power grids based on our clocks. And another very critical infrastructure, at least for Germans, when it is time to watch soccer games, is TV production, live TV production. So one of the latest, let's say, industries we were basically involved in was live TV production synchronization, because these people are going full IP. That means they basically switch from their legacy systems to IP-based networks. Of course, we synchronize uncounted corporate networks, mainly with NTP servers. Mobile telecommunication networks are synchronized with our devices, and we also have large-scale communication networks in the defense domain, which are operated or basically synchronized by Meinberg equipment. Radar and control center systems. So one of the things I always say is that whenever you fly in or out of Europe, you have a 100% of being timestamped by a Meinberg NTP server, because Eurocontrol, for example, responsible for upper air control in all over Europe, is using Meinberg servers for synchronizing their radar times stations. Lots of other stuff. Since I'm running out of time, I will leave that in the presentation for later review. If you're interested in hearing more about Meinberg, hearing more about our specific solutions to financial industry requirements, please feel free to see us at our table there. We are here all day long, and I would be happy to discuss our capabilities and your requirements. Thank you.
Mike, you and Todd are up. Michael, Calabro, and Todd Inskeep from Booz Allen Hamilton.
Thank you. I'm Todd Inskeep from Booz Allen Hamilton, and I'm really curious, how many people have heard of Booz Allen before the mentions today? And how many of you think of us as a government contractor, a company that does a lot of work in government? We've been in commercial work for several years and really have made a big comeback in commercial over the last 6 years, since about 2011. Really focused on some work that we've been doing with the government. We started as a consulting company over 100 years ago. We've been doing a lot of work and consulting with the government on solutions to a variety of problems since World War II. And over the last 30 to 40 years, we've really been involved in cybersecurity and a lot of the details of information security. Really like the reminder of the James Bond movie subplot there that we talked about a few minutes ago, related to the details of time, positioning, and how important that can be. Now, none of us in the room have ships that are running up against international borders, but we're running trades that are really critically important to our companies, to our profitability, and to our clients. And today, as we think about those things, the timing for those is important and critical. Having a delay in them, having a delay in the effect can become important. And as we were reminded by one of the earlier speakers, the market insight of knowing what happened, when it happened for those trades, those timestamps can be important as an intelligence source for other people. I was thinking about that presentation and kind of came up with this hypothesis. What if there's really only 4 or 5 firms, the ones that hit that first mark in time of a new trade, and everyone else is just fast following to different degrees? Would that be important to you? Would that be an impact to your trading algorithms, the speed and the work that you're doing, if you found out that what your algorithms were really doing was just fast following other people? Would it be important for you to know if other people are really mining that intelligence? What would the effect of that be? And if somebody was really impacting the time that you're using to stamp your trades, if they were making an adjustment somewhere between where your company came up and where you were talking about where those trades were actually getting executed, would the impact on that affect your company's bottom line? What we do from a commercial consulting perspective is really think about the impact of different kinds of activities. What we've seen in cyberspace, particularly over the last 10 years, is that we're really in an active war with a variety of adversaries, from nation-state actors to criminal elements to fraudulent people trying to commit various types of fraud. There's no reason why they wouldn't undertake similar types of fraud in this equities trading space that we're talking about today. So as we walk through that, it becomes very interesting to think about how would you react if you found out that your timing was being impacted? What would you do? What impact would that have? Would you want to go talk to the CEO? How would you talk about that? How would you even find out that something like that is happening? Do you have detection capabilities? Do you have indicators, feeds going back into your security operations center or other operations in the organization that would let you know something bad was happening? Have you thought about that? Would you like to? That's the kind of work that we do in thinking about how various types of adversary activities in cyberspace, whether it's time or other kinds of activities, impact an organization. We want to help you figure out what you would do, maybe war game through some scenarios, and understand what that impact would be and how you can prevent or detect that. We tend to think about things from a very strategic perspective as well as a very detailed perspective. Now, I've noticed that the clock here is not counting down, so I have no idea when my 7 minutes actually started and how close I am to the end. What I'd like to do is let you know that Mike and I are here, along with several of our colleagues, to answer your questions throughout the day, and we'd love to talk to you more about any of these things. In addition to that kind of strategic activity, because we have a great deal of experience supporting the military, working with them on a variety of challenges, including the kinds of timing challenges that we're talking about here today, we have teams that are focused on the very most detailed pieces of picoseconds, nanoseconds, and how that impacts time, location, positioning. So let me bring up Mike and have him spend just a minute or two wrapping up and talking about what his team does in those details.
Thanks, Todd. So I'm Mike Calabro, and I work on the engineering side of Booz Allen. We do more than just PowerPoint consulting. And here to talk about two capabilities, proving about proving your time, right? And so, like Todd, I also come from a security background, but a cyber-physical security background. So I'm not a New Yorker. When I first showed up in this city for this conference, I need my phone to help me navigate, right? Now, where I live in Virginia, clear sky, location services on my phone work very well. Immediately, I noticed that services I depended on, like Uber or Google Maps, just didn't really work that well in the urban canyons of New York. Now, because I have a background in GPS and satellite navigation technologies, I had some reasonable hypotheses about why that was. But I think to most consumers that view time as a service or utility, like it's the internet, you pay for a subscription, it shows up, and it just works. When you see anomalous behavior, how do you attribute it? And then how do you understand how your systems will react to it? And so the two capabilities that are shown here refer to their test and evaluation capabilities for jamming and spoofing. What you see on your right are the position tracks of 4 different receivers when exposed to the same degradation signal. And it's one really toy, simple example, it is real data, of how implementation matters and how are you validating the performance of your equipment against what is the truth. The second capability in spoofing, the ability to actively manipulate the GPS signals, maybe all the GPS signals, maybe signals from just 1 or 2 satellites, to change the time that your receiver is measuring, perhaps very slowly, perhaps quickly, is another evaluation capability that we offer. So I'm here with my colleagues, most of which are concentrated in this row. If you'd like to talk to us about understanding that more, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Yodaiken from FSMLabs. Victor, you're up last. Not for any meaning.
All right, thanks. Can I get my slides and a clock? Would that be too much to ask? Okay, thanks. How do I do that? Is the green button is the next slide, all right. I'm seeing only, I pushed it. Oh, there you go. All right. All right. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so my name is Victor Yodaiken. I'm from FSMLabs, which is unusual here as we're primarily a software company and primarily a system software company. So we have a very different perspective on clock sync than many others. And what I'm going to talk about mostly in this talk is our Timekeeper compliance product, which we've had out for about 1.5 years now. In the other talk, I'll be talking in more detail about how you validate that time is right, but in this case, we're going to focus on a product for just essentially collecting records. So as a background, Timekeeper is our software product, and it's really a suite of multiple products. There's Timekeeper Client, which sits on your server computers that do trading or other activities, and brings in time over the network, generally from multiple sources so it can fail over properly. It collects data, it reports, it does some analysis. Timekeeper Server essentially acts as a boundary clock or as a stratum server, but also collects data and does some additional analysis. It creates a database of information. And Timekeeper Compliance, which is the newest piece of this, about 1.5 years old now, essentially adds a searchable database and reporting facilities. And Timekeeper Compliance, of course, was prompted by the requirements of MiFID II. I mean, we originally thought that people could just build their own systems using the data that we collected, but it became clear that for a lot of people, a lot of firms, the time pressure of getting MiFID II compliance was so great that they needed additional infrastructure to help them do it. So what does Timekeeper Compliance do? Well, it's a software system that mostly does reporting and alerting. And you can see here a sort of a standard report. This is the basic report that it provides. You might be looking at a couple of thousand servers that it's monitoring, and it's telling you that you're in pretty good shape here, that 80% of them are totally synchronized. You have a yellow mark on a smaller number of them, and none of them are out of sync. And then it's showing you here some additional details. Whoops. It's showing you what's our warning threshold is, in this case, is 1 millisecond. Our time warning is giving us this yellow, the yellow bar, and then our alert threshold, and what the alert length is. And those are all configurable values, and you can have multiple reports. So sort of the summary of it, this has been in production since 2016. It creates a searchable database, it generates reports, provides archival storage, documents traceability and compliance. It uses standard PTP protocols to pull the data in. There's actually a very powerful feature of PTP that's not widely used for PTP management. And it's compatible with the whole suite of tools that we have and everybody else's clock synchronization, whatever devices or software people use. But I would say that it has created, we've had surprises while we've implemented it. Of course, anytime you bring a new piece of software into the market, you'll find that it's, people use it in different ways than you thought they would. You run into different problems than you thought you would. And as one of my colleagues always says, it quotes Mike Tyson, that no plan survives a punch to the face. And that's essentially what happens when you bring out a new software product. But our product builds on a whole network of capabilities that we've built into our systems for collecting data. So when we started building clock synchronization software, our idea was it wasn't good enough to synchronize precisely. You needed to also be able to collect data. You needed to be able to do analysis. You needed to do alerts. What I'm showing here is a map that our Timekeeper server builds, which shows at the top all the sources that this server is collecting data from, collecting them all in real time and figuring out which one to use. And underneath it, it's showing who it's serving the time to, with red lines for NTP and green lines for PTP. So it's tempting to show you what your network looks like. This is a feature we've had for a while, and it often causes surprises for network administrators who find that that they had multiple different sources that turn out to all connect to the same original clock, or that there are bottlenecks in their network that they didn't see otherwise. So based on that, you can see, we collected an enormous amount of data and we built this database out of it for the compliance product. It's been in use for, as I say, more than a year. There was rapid adoption for it due to the stringent requirements of MiFID II. We have a number of tier 1 banks. There's some very large-scale financial firms that are not banks. And a lot of smaller shops that are driven by MiFID II requirements. And then also people who are not driven by MiFID II requirements or actually even any regulatory requirements, but are looking for stronger data governance. And so they want to collect all their data together and be able to monitor it. You can see that, we had a great deal of capabilities in it. Our new version that's just in white, microphone. Our new version is in widespread beta. It's coming. It's going to be released in February, and it's essentially scale up and sort of a lessons learned. And one of the things that we learned is people will want to, and firms will want to monitor very large numbers of systems occasionally. So we scaled it up to be able to do terabytes of data and tens of thousands of systems. We added a feature to be able to do both internal and external reports, because our original idea was you would generate reports that would go to the compliance group only, and this was not something that IT people would use at all. It just was for compliance officers. But it turns out that there's a big need for reports that will warn the IT staff about where compliance is showing some signs of weakness. So they would like to be able to address that before it shows up in something that their compliance officers see. That seems obvious in retrospect. We have more granular reporting. We've added an SQL feature so that you can essentially generate whatever reports you want, and an alert by source. Timekeeper is based on multiple sources. It's sort of foundational to our operation. And now what we can do is you can say, okay, you have an alert because this source is causing a problem, or you have an alert because that source is causing a problem. It has a web accessible GUI for data exploration. It's sort of your standard pull-down menu with things. So here's a good example. You want your global report. I want it daily. I want it over 2007 and for this day in January. And this is designed to allow you to essentially address a query from a compliance officer or a regulator or a customer saying, I have concerns about trades that were done over this period. In this set of machines. You can also decide which set of machines that you want to allocate. So it has the visualization, which we've seen before. You can drill down and get more details. You can also use this very not new form of data querying called SQL to get reports. And so we have sort of essentially made the SQL interface visible, so you can build whatever custom reports you want out of this. we find that our customers love spreadsheets. So especially the compliance officers, that's where they live. So build Excel spreadsheets, that's what they want. And then we have a path for this later in the year that we're going to do a GUI makeover. GUI is reasonable right now as far as engineers can do, but we want to make something prettier. Security and data integrity, a big issue for us. We have some security features in there already, but we feel like this is a growing area, and we have some ideas for things that are going to happen there. We are seeing already the regulators are giving hints to people about what they want, which are slightly different from what everybody expected, so we're kind of trying to adjust to that. We expect that will happen over the years. And then continuing adjustments to customer use cases. For example, one of the things that was totally unexpected to us is that instead of using this system to generate static reports that would go to compliance officers, we have a number of our customers are essentially just sitting on that machine all day, looking out and monitoring their whole network for it. So you have 20 different IT staff looking at reports from it, which is a very different use case than we had anticipated. They're still generating the reports for the compliance officers, and the compliance officers want to see something very different from the IT. So that's something we're doing. And I think, go ahead. Question? Oh, okay. And then that's it. That was the end of my talk, and I left some time for Pat to say something smart ass. So,